And all right, there we go. From here, I can record. So at this point, like I said, I am recording, and I hope if you're okay with that. Any questions you have would be on that recording. Again, the purpose of that is just to provide people that couldn't be here the chance to see what we discussed and what I'm talking about. And so I just want to be upfront with you and honest about that. Okay. So back to the sharing of the screen. Claire, you're my go-to girl again. Good. All right. Thank you. All right. So here we go. Contributing sources to this plan. These are the different entities, if you will, groups that we kind of have taken a lot of the information and made our plan. I can tell you that our plan has been cross-referenced or very similar to a lot of other high school plans that you see around the state. And our conferences our conference ADs have been in constant communication with each other, weekly meetings along with state AD meetings. So this has been a long time coming, and ever since we were announced we would be returning sometime in early July. So we also have met as an admin staff with Mr. Hartley, and some of these things come from that. So I will say I shared some documents with you on that email. This in-class document, it was a nice document sent out by the governor a while back, but someone took this nice user-friendly, and I'm not going to try to unshare and reshare a different screen, but user-friendly spreadsheet. It's the one that had the IHSA at the top that kind of shows the 3 phases. Phase 1 being July 6th through the 19th, and then July 20th, I think it's to August 14th, is Phase 2, which will cover 2 sections actually, and we can talk about that towards the end. And then August 15th, if everything goes on track, will be the start of Phase 3. So anyways, that spreadsheet does a better job than the in-class document, in my opinion, of kind of walking through what the phases are for the different athletic tiers, if you will, or the phase-in parts. Purpose of the day, I want to inform you as parents and student athletes of the PHS plan, provide some time and space for clarifying questions to be asked, and then hopefully ease some anxiety that you may have out there. So that's really the purpose of that. Our goals of jumping in phase 1, I told this to our coaches. These are our goals for our coaches, and I would say our student athletes. Get active and get back in shape. I know we provided those workouts in June, but I know that some were really diligent and others were not so diligent. So we want to get back into shape and get active again. We want to stay healthy and COVID-free in this phase 1 and all phases, obviously. And also reconnect with our coaches and teammates. It's been a long time coming, right? And we're going to be the first ones to jump back at it as far as the school goes. And so we want to have fun being kids again, get back with our teammates and start the process of reintegrating. And it's going to be different than what it was when we left back in March, but that's okay. And so we're going to, like I said, provide that path to that as far as the world of athletics go. I share this screen with you. I shared it with our coaches. I decided I was going to share it with you. I'm going to give you just about 10, 15 seconds to read through it without me talking here. So this is one of those, I guess it came from a social media post of an athletic director, a college athletic director that I know and respect. And it just really hit home with me. And so I shared it with our coaches. I just want you to know that we all take this very, very seriously. We're trying to do our best to create a safe environment for kids to come back into, and we think we're doing that. And we know there are a lot of strong opinions out there, and it's tough doing a job sometimes when you walk into it and know that some people are going to be mad at you no matter what. And so that's okay. So we signed up for it. But I do ask you to be a little empathetic and show grace to our coaches, stay positive through that all. If there are situations that are you're really struggling with, my door is open. And my email's open. I'll take a phone call. I'd be happy to talk through whatever you need to talk through to help ease that anxiety. We're just simply trying to do our best to adhere to the restrictions and the limitations we've been given, and provide a safe environment to kind of do that return that, like I said, everybody's going to be doing starting tomorrow across the state. So just thought this was appropriate and something that maybe you could pause and kind of reflect on. So with that, we're going to move forward. Keys to success. This is really, really important. Number one, stay home if your child doesn't feel well. Student athletes, maybe mom and dad are at work already when you get up in the morning. Stay home. You know the difference between, I'm sore today because of my workout on Tuesday, and I'm not feeling real great. And so, or I hope you do. And if you're not sure, then we're going to change the mindset from what it used to be. I grew up in a household where unless you had a fever of about 102 and spent the night somewhere near the toilet, you were probably coming to school and you were toughing it out. Well, that mindset needs to change, and we need everybody to understand that. And so you're our first line of defense. If you're not feeling well, don't put your kids at risk. Or your teammates at risk, your coaches at risk. Just stay home, get healthy, and move forward. So it's one of those things where that's going to be our best defense in this whole thing, is people self-monitoring and making sure they're not trying to tough through something when they're not feeling well. Okay. PHS will practice social distancing whenever possible. Sorry, I have some people texting me. I thought maybe we're trying to jump in. So we will practice social distancing 6 feet apart as much as possible. So again, it's athletics, right? So we can do that in a lot of cases, and we're going to definitely phase that in phase one, where we expect our coaches to do a lot more social distancing and keep the contact at a minimum. And when we can't, we're going to mask up. And there will be some times when kids cannot mask up, nor can they be socially distant. Rigorous physical activity will have those moments where they can and need to take that mask down. You'll see later on, we're not going to allow extended live contact. There will be some drills where occasionally someone might be side to side with someone or whatever, but we're not going to be promoting in phase one for sure. In phase one, we will not be promoting extended live contact or drills, things like that. We're going to encourage and monitor and make sure we're staying socially distanced as much as possible, whether it be warm-ups, whether it be entering the complex, exiting the complex. Even within our weight room, you're going to see some of the things that we've put in place to make sure kids are staying socially distanced. That's our best defense. All right, I've got some people that want in the meeting, so give me just 1 second. See if I can get them in while they're waiting. All right. I've admitted a few more people. It's one of those things where if you haven't done this before, it's kind of hard to do. So I think I've let in everybody. That on my end says 1 in. So I'm going to leave it at that and keep going forward, and then pause here in just a moment. Okay. Here's what you need to know. All summer activities are voluntary. This is not back to the day of well, yeah, it's voluntary, but we all know what voluntary means. Coach is going to keep attendance, and he's going to keep track, or she's going to keep track of who's there. And no, it really is voluntary. You have that space. We are going to keep attendance because we're required to by the IHSA to keep some record and data as far as our COVID screening, but that is not going to be used against student athletes at this time. If you have some genuine concerns, we want to know about those. Maybe share those with your coach, and we will try to accommodate whatever way we can, till there is this comfort level with getting back to full swing, which is where we plan to end up being, obviously, if we're going to compete later on in August. So that is the goal here. And so we have to find or transition between now and August, into that. So and again, I apologize. I'm trying to make sure those people that want in get in. So again, all summer activities are voluntary, and I need you to hear that loud and clear. Our coaches know that. Here's the other part that's really, really important, and many of you are taking care of this. Prior to any participation, the following must be completed. And I'm sorry if this sounds redundant, but you'd be amazed at how many times I have to answer it. Final forms documents must be completed and signed by both parents and students. This can be done tonight. It can be done tomorrow morning. If you show up and didn't realize you didn't have a sign, your coach should tell you you're not good to go because you didn't sign the documents or your parents didn't sign the documents. Well, because final forms is such instantaneous, you should be able to get on there and sign them within minutes and be eligible that way. The other part that was really confusing, and I do apologize for this, is this part right here. So the IHSA came out somewhere late April, early May and said, hey, guess what? We're going to let you go ahead and take your 1920 physical and make it be your 2021 physical, if that's what you want to do. So PCSC, we got a kind of a waiver that we ask you to sign on final forms. If you wanted to do that, we acknowledge that we're selecting this. And I got a note from someone texting my wife that we needed a password. I don't know that I have any passwords. So if you're on here and someone said they needed a password, I didn't password protect it. I didn't think. So the rest of you got on here. But anyways, so back to what I was saying about the document. You had to go through that hoop on our end on final forms to sign in and select that. We thought we were good. We started clicking the physical as good on final forms. And then about halfway through May, the IHSA came back out with a new document, said we probably need to guide people in a better direction. And that's where number 2 comes in, the health history update questionnaire, consent release certificate. And and so when that came up, all we could do was come back to you and say, look, you got to turn in one of these 2 things. They must be turned in on paper. Some of you are digitally scanning them or taking pics now and sending them to Gwen or I. That will be good for now. But one of these 2 things must be on file before you can start doing anything with your teammates or practice wise. So if you don't have that, tomorrow you'll have to go and meet with Mrs. Chris and make sure you get that. Okay. So if you have not turned in one of these documents yet, see Mrs. Chris between door 6 and door 7. She'll be there starting tomorrow around 7. She'll even have a couple computers there for those that couldn't sign in to final forms. She'll have the paperwork you need. Obviously, you can't get a physical by her. So if you're getting the physical route, you're going to have to go to the doctor and get that done. Okay. I don't know why it's kicking me out like that, but we'll keep going. You can either scan or take a pic of the docs and send it to myself. Here's my email address, or Mrs. Chris, or both of us. It would probably be best. And so those would be the ways to do that right now, tonight, if you have that documentation. Or again, you can just drop it off tomorrow before your first practice. Mrs. Chris will be out there in the afternoon as well. I'm just kind of giving you when she plans to be out there. She plans to be there for the morning session and the afternoon sessions to kind of help out with that. Okay. I would ask you, some of you may have watched the video or whatever, and know that there's a drop box over at the admin office. Please do not drop that off tonight over there, because it won't be instantaneous. We won't have that tomorrow start of practice. So, and in fact, some of you might have turned that in over the weekend, which is great. We're going to try to get those as quickly as we can tomorrow. But the offices weren't open on Friday, so therefore there's some documents that might have been dropped off. If you were one that dropped it off on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that might have been something you, did thinking I'm doing a good job of getting it done, and you are, but it just may not be noted on final forms just yet because it's not in our hands because the offices were closed. Okay. And at that point, it is question time. I'm going to pause here for just a moment and go check this. Check the chat if I can. Or I'm not. Any questions that you might have? This is Garmin. Hi, when does the $5 need to be turned in? Thank you so much for asking that. $5. So when you get on there, if you see that you're not green all the way across, the $5 is going to be turned in by competition the week before competition. The reason I'm doing that is, let's say we trend the wrong way and we don't end up having a season or something. I hate even saying negatively, I didn't want to charge people $5 for something they didn't need to pay. If you paid that already, so be it. We'll work on trying to get it back, but it was just my way of trying not to have to refund a bunch of money I didn't need to. So there is a way to pay online. So there's definitely a way to get that done, at least online, or you can wait till, like I said, that week before. And that, what I'm talking about is August, maybe the 7th through the 14th or something like that. I think is the first week before practices when we get in those scrimmages. Okay. Claire asked, do we have to wear a mask entering and exiting the building for practice? We'll get into mask wearing, but yes, I would like you to have that on anytime you are going to approach someone, I guess, right now, and when you're not rigorously being active. And so that would be one of those cases, right? You're coming up to your coach to be checked in, probably going to be socially distant, but it's still good to have that mask on. So yes, have your mask available and be wearing it as you enter the building. It's just what we would like to kind of build into right now as we get to that place where we get to a better common understanding of when we can wear them, when we're not. But right now, let's err on that side of wearing them into the building. Okay. Yeah, there's questions coming up here about weight room and a limit to the number of sports and workouts and stuff like that. Those are all great questions. I'm going to get to those in just a moment. So if I don't answer your question, please ask me again when I get to that. I see one about a weight room and I see one about one sport. Limit to the number of practice workouts. I'm going to get to that here in just a moment in the next section. Okay. With that, I'm going to reshare the screen here again and get back into the meeting and show that section. And then I think you'll get that question answered right here. So here we go. Coaching staffs will be responsible for attendance, COVID screening, which will be on final forms for every session. So when I'll get to that protocol, but basically coaching staffs have been trained on how to do this. And I will tell you what the pre-practice protocol will be. It kind of goes along with the mask that Claire was asking about. Coaches will be trained and responsible for cleaning sports-specific equipment. Again, coaches that are planning to use a weight room, or if they use basketballs or volleyballs or things like that, those coaches will need to clean those at the end of the session. And so they've been trained to do that. So those are things that we went through last week and worked hard to kind of build in that knowledge for them. Student athletes are limited to 15 cumulative hours per week on PHS campus facilities for workout time. Let me explain or dive in a little bit. This kind of goes to your question, I believe, Amanda, about workouts. On that IHSA doc was kind of specifics on how much you can do. And what I want to say is it's only phase 1 that we have to worry about this. So the first 2 weeks, they put a restriction on how many hours, and their restrictions, we even got a little more restrictive on that. Like they said, you could work out 4 times strength and conditioning, for 2-hour sessions. I think they said each sport could have 2 practices of 3 hours of length. We just thought all that was a little too much considering how much we've been off. So we restricted it back on some of those things. The only people that have to worry about this 15 cumulative hours would be our 3-sport athletes who have an hour and a half of conditioning 3 times a week, and also have 3 sports where their coaches are meeting for 2 hours at a time. And in that case, my recommendation, we will be monitoring that, but in that case, any sport or any person who has that kind of amount of workload this first week, they really have to just miss one session. They have to choose one session. We're recommending that they pick a winter or spring sport to not go to at that point, one of the practices, because they'd be an hour and a half over the limit is what it comes down to. So we'll be working with those student athletes that might be in that situation. I'll give you an example. Some of our girls that maybe play volleyball, basketball, and softball, that could be an issue. This week, I don't think it will, because I don't think basketball is going to start tomorrow night. So they're already down 1 spot. So they're free go this week, though, even that scenario. So going to be monitoring some of the others, but most of the other coaches are going about an hour and a half instead of the 2 hours. Like I said, there's just very little chance for us going over that 15-hour cumulative per week. Cohort groups will be established and maintained throughout. Basically, we've been told once you establish them, keep those partnerships, keep those small groups pretty much the way they are as long as you possibly can. And we're going to do that at least through phase 1. What we mean by if coaches are working with a group, let's say you have a workout partner, right? Or you start doing a shooting partner or something like that, we're going to ask that they stay with those partners and stay in those small groups throughout. And the reason for that is the more socially distanced we stay from groups, not cross-pollinate, so to speak, the less likely we are to get some people that'll have to be dismissed or out if one student athlete would be needed to be removed for whatever reason. Maybe their family member got it or whatever. Those are the kind of things we're trying to limit the cohort groups and their interaction. Now, that's not to say we're going to be perfect and all that. We're going to do our best, but I mean, that's what our coaches have been instructed to do their best they can to kind of create some small groups and partners. And so therefore they kind of stay together and not wipe out an entire group if at all possible. We're not going to go live on our contact drills, scrimmaging. Like I said, football was not allowed to. We just kind of extended that on to soccer and basketball. And so the idea behind that is, again, we don't want to do 10-minute box out drills, with the same person. And then that would be definitely a case where if one of them had to be removed, probably the other person would have to be removed as well. So the more we can prove that we stayed socially distant and 6 feet apart and wore a mask and did what we could, the less likely people that aren't involved in being removed from practice, I would call it collateral damage, if you will, right? I mean, it's just the people that are, because I was with that person, I got to be out now. That could happen, and that's why we're trying to set up our systems so that it doesn't happen. More one-on-one, more, I would say, individual workouts, those kind of things, drills that you can pass and create and score, in basketball or soccer, things like that, working on our systems rather than our live type drills, things like that. Or if we could use practice dummies, I'm thinking out on soccer field, right? They can put the guys out there for those kind of drills where they need a person to stand and kind of represent a defender or something like that. So we're not going to allow junior high students. In the past, there's been a few cases where maybe junior high students have come over and did open gym, or there's a few times where I guess some cross-country kids were running, and so we're not going to mix cohort groups there, and we're not traveling and competing in July. So We're not going anywhere to compete against anybody. We're not hopping in any kind of transportation, school transportation to go anywhere. So that has been communicated to our coaches. Strength and conditioning, fall sports are in charge of the conditioning of the athletes. What I mean by that is we basically ask our fall coaches to be the ones that took over the conditioning part. We told our winter and spring coaches not to add that to what they're doing. And they can do some strength training. The winter and sports coaches can. But let me be specific. If you're in a fall sport, okay, and maybe this goes to what Amanda was asking. If you're in a fall sport and you go to, let's say, volleyball, and they have workouts tomorrow morning from 7 to 8:30. They're doing strength and conditioning both together. If you are also in, let's say, swimming, and Coach Church, who I don't believe is going to be doing anything in the weight room, but she's going to have a little dry land workout. You don't have to go to the dry land workout part of it. She's adding that in. Then the last hour, she even said that in her communication. Now it's up to you. You can go to that because that's really kind of in their sports specific practice. But what I'm saying is, if they had their own little lifting group, if let's say the basketball team decides to lift later in July, you don't need to go to a secondary. In fact, you're not supposed to go to a secondary, workout and conditioning group. So I hope I'm making that clear. You need to go to your fall sports conditioning and strength and training. Do not go to secondary, winter and spring sports strength programs. Just go to their sports practices, if you will. So strength and conditioning workouts are 90 minutes max. We put that max on it because most of the strength training is going to be about 45 minutes in the weight room, and then that gives them a little transition time, and then they can do about 30 minutes of conditioning. If they're doing strength only workouts, that's going to be a 60-minute max in the weight room. So I'm going to talk specifically about what we've done in the weight room, and that's what I was kind of talking. Athletes can only attend one strength and conditioning session per day, 3 max per week. If you read that document, it says 4. We lowered it down to 3. That's the maximum any of our fall sports are going for strength and conditioning. Most of them are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if anything. So again, I'll get to questions you might have here in just a moment. In the weight room, we reduced the capacity down to 18 students max in the weight room. All right. The NPR use will increase the overall capacity. So we've moved some stuff out in the NPR, and that allows us to get about 30 to 36, another 12 to 18 kids out there, and still be socially distant from everybody. 18 will be in the weight room. We're not spotting, as in you can see that's in the document. It says no spotting in phase 1. We're not going to do that. So we're not going to be max or heavy lifting. This is about getting our form, about getting back to it. I'm really excited about some of our female sports are getting into the weight room. I don't know that all of our female sports have done that in the past. So there are coaches that are going in there and wanting to introduce them and get them into that strength training, which I think is missing in a lot of fronts, really, in a lot of sports. So we're going to do that responsibly and smartly. And especially early on, there's not going to be any kind of max or heavy lifting. Each person will have their own station. So within the weight room, we've already sectioned these off. There's 6 benches socially distant apart. There's 6 squat racks. There's 6 hang clean areas. The Nautilus type machine are the ones where you sit and you have the stacks where you get a select and you pull down kind of the upright rows, those kind of things. They have been taped off if they're not socially distanced, if they're inside 6 feet. So there's like every other one you could use. Long story short, the coaches will tell you which exercises they're going to do, but each person's going to have their own individual place where they're going within the weight room rather than partnering up. This is another thing. Masks are going to be worn at all times in the weight room. I see a lot of the athletes that are out there working, pro athletes. If you see them, they're wearing their mask in there. Now, there are a few exceptions. I know there are sometimes when they're going to ask you to do some box jumps, let's say. So these exceptions would be when the lift or when the activity becomes more aerobic, more where it involves you getting kind of a little physically kind of tired from it. By that I mean you're losing your breath, right? Aerobic type activity. So if you're doing box jumps, you're going to lose your breath in that. That's going to be a little more conditioning as well as strength training, right? So those are moments where if the athlete feels like they need to pull down their mask, they're welcome to do that. They shouldn't be anybody within, those few places, or there shouldn't be anybody within the social distance of 6 feet. But in those cases, I would say that's in the definition of rigorous activity, if you will. So otherwise, most of the time, if we're doing something bench wise or whatever, we're putting that mask up, and it's to be worn at all times in there for now. 1 hour blocks, I guess that's a little bit more than you need to know, but here's what you need to know down here. This 5 minute, there's a 1 hour block that we're leaving this 5 to 6 exercises. You get 5 minutes of lift time, and then there'll be a 3 minute clean. Basically, each athlete will be given a, and I think this is on the next part, but each athlete will be given their own bottle spray and towel. And so when they get done with their exercise, they're going to spray that equipment off. And again, a coach will guide them through this. This is a proved cleaner. It's a 3 minute kill of the coronavirus, but it needs to be left on for 3 minutes. So basically, at the end of the 5 minutes, the bell will go off. That'll be the indication. The coach will yell, "Clean off your equipment." You'll take your spray. You'll let it sit. And then there'll be a 3 minute either rest, or they may ask you to go out and do a plank or a core activity or something like that. But basically, whatever they decide, there's going to be 3 minutes where people are not using the equipment during that time to let that material work. And then they do the rotation. So each rotation is going to take about 8 minutes, as you can see. 5 minutes of lifting, 3 minutes clean, and then you're moving on to the next station, if you will. Okay. Sport-specific practice, 2 non-consecutive days per week. Basically, that means you had to go Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Friday. You just couldn't go Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, 2 hours max. Again, if you look at the sheet that was provided for you with the IHSA symbol, the spreadsheet, it actually provided 3. We decided to cut that back. We didn't think we needed to overdo it. Keep cohorts the same. Practice in small group and partners. We've even gone this far. We've asked our winter and spring sports, hey, if you've got football team members, like say on your basketball team, can you keep those guys together? Same would be true with soccer girls going to basketball, girls basketball or whatever sport. I mean, take whatever you want from season to season. Try, if you're doing small groups, try to keep the kids that are going to be in the same, especially in the fall sports, try to keep them together when you're creating those small cohorts and partnerships. If practice times coincide, student athletes should be encouraged to attend the fall sport, but ultimately does get the choice. There will be no pressure by our coaches. So I won't say we've tried to eliminate a lot of them, a lot of the conflicts, if you will, but there's no way to avoid all of them right now, the way we set it up. So there are a few places where you may have one practice at the same time as another. You ultimately get the choice. A lot of your fall sports are kind of excited and know that you're going to be competing in less than a month. And so that's why we kind of gave the fall sport, a little bit of a nudge there. But I will say it is ultimately the student athlete's choice. I used the analogy on myself. Back in the day, if I would have been given, Coach Hunter tennis and Coach Edison had basketball at the exact same time, probably back in the day, I would have chose basketball. I love tennis, and I was tennis coach for all these years. But I'm just telling you, if I had that mix up or I had that conflict, what I would have tried to do is maybe go to one on one time and one on another, if that's what it was. So I kind of break it. But, I know some student athletes have really favorite sports that they love and they just don't want to miss those. And that's not their fall sport. That's one of those situations we're going to give you some choice. Okay. Remember, all summer activities are voluntary. So you don't need to, feel that pressure from our coaches, and I hope you don't. Student athletes will be responsible. Really important. This is a big part. Okay, a large water bottle and container. You need to bring that. You need to start drinking right now, tonight, and get yourself hydrated because it's going to be a hot week. You can bring your own towel, and you need to bring clean workout attire. This includes a mask for facial covering. We do not have a ton of masks. We may have a few just for people that forget, but we don't have a few for 100 people that forget. So please bring your own. We've thought about providing some, with some Plymouth emblems if people want to purchase them or whatever. But right now we don't have the funds to kind of just buy those outright. So we're looking into those options. So for now, please bring your own mask. There will be no sharing of any of the above items between student athletes. So can't be drinking water from the same container from other people. Again, when we have water breaks, we're going to still be harping on you to stay socially distant. Don't share your towel with someone. These are just things that are going to help us get us to stay healthy and stay COVID free if we can do those things well, and ultimately, hopefully, get us to the place where we're competing in the month of August by taking care of ourselves here. Okay, bathrooms will be open. Limited occupancy, obviously. I'm thinking of the football field. Well, there's tons of bathrooms in there. I'm guessing we'll probably have 2 per in there. Most of the other bathrooms are going to be 1 at a time. Water fountains can be used only to fill up water containers. PCSC strongly encourages parents to pick up and drop off their student athletes rather than share rides. We're not going to be policing that per se. We're not going to sit there and tell on each other, but I'm telling you that is one of those things that the more we do things like that, the better your chance of having a larger group knocked out. If one of them would become, have a COVID reason for being out. So I'm just encouraging you, for the sake of your team, for the sake of your teammates, do your best to stay socially distanced and apart from each other as much as possible. I know your kids. I know some of you are hanging out already, and that's to be expected. I get it. But I'm just telling you, those are the hard conversations we'll have to have as we get further along in this process. If we have a bunch of people that are always packing together, that pack is in danger if one of them gets knocked out due to COVID. Additionally, masks are strongly encouraged when social distancing is not possible. Again, Claire asked about that. We're going to keep those masks on wherever we can. So let's stop sharing real quick and see what questions we have. Trying to go as quick as I can, but not lose people here in the process. What questions do you have about that section? I have a question about the weight room. If you are you're only going to go in. I don't have any weight room opportunities just in the open right now. They're only sports specific. Coaches are going in. So the football team has a time. I know the volleyball team's using it. There are a few other teams that are going to be using it. Only if the team is coaches want to use it is how we're doing it. I know in the years past we've had Coach Sammy be involved. Right now he's not going to be involved in that process, and so we don't have any open concepts, I guess. Where you can just come in and use the weight room. It'll be only teams that their coaches wanted to make that be part of their strength and conditioning. Okay. Any other questions that go along with that? Question is, can we shower at school? The answer is no, we cannot. The locker rooms are closed. That's a great question, and it should have been on there. The locker rooms are closed. So no, and that is also in phase 1 of the document that was sent out to you. We will see in phase 2 what that will look like. But again, you will be showering at home when you leave, and you need to, we're not doing any laundry other than, like I said, when each kid gets their own towel and spray bottle in the weight room, the towels we will launder ourselves there. You don't have to take those towels home that we hand you out, but everything else you need to, again, take the stuff home. Whatever you bring during the day, you got to take home with you. There is no locker room access, no no shower access at the school. Any other questions about that section? I got one more section and then we'll be through what I need to get through. So, okay. Good, Claire? Can you see questions? All right, good. Thank you. All right, here we go. COVID screening, there'll be 3 levels of screening that we will do in PCSC's plan. At home screening, at practice coach screening, and also the athletic trainer screening. And that wasn't mandated. I mean, we are mandated to screen, but our process involves 3, and I want to explain why. So level 1, and this is probably the most important one, parents and student athletes need to help keep everyone safe by self-monitoring, self-screening, and self-reporting. If any member of your home has been recently exposed to COVID, including someone who is getting tested but does not know the results yet, or a student athlete has cold or flu-like symptoms, please, please, please stay home. Don't come to practice if you have that situation where, later on you find out, yeah, I was actually exposed. I was playing cards with Uncle Jim all weekend, at our family get together, and Uncle Jim went in to get tested and we don't know whether he's got it or not. Stay home. It's one of those things where it's very common. It's actually, I've already told my coaches, I'm going to be transparent with all of you. I got sick this past weekend, this past Thursday. So I was doing the coaches training, got home about 8, 9 o'clock, started feeling under the weather, and could just tell I was probably heading towards a fever. And sure enough, by 11 o'clock that night, I had 101 fever. I had that fever all the way through 3 a.m. last night. But anyways, it was determined that I needed to go get screened just because there was enough there. I'm still waiting the results. I don't know the results of that. So that's why I'm in my own little bunker down here, the white wall, and in a room down by myself. My family's isolated. We didn't do our July 4th plans. They weren't real happy with me, but they understood. My daughter's not going to come to volleyball tomorrow until we get the test results and we know one way or the other and we know our steps. I'm trying to practice what I'm preaching, if you will. And that kind of sucks for people, but it's the part of the process that we have to do to help keep people safe, right? We have to care about others more than ourselves in those situations and not spread this if we even think we're at risk. So I am definitely feeling better today. And thankfully, like I said, my fever went away this morning, early this morning, but I won't be in the office. I won't be out there. We're working on, people that are covering, other admin, they'll be out there covering as far as monitoring stuff. So just wanted to kind of share that with you, simply to say it could happen to you. And so those are tough choices that we have to make and make them responsibly for others to keep them safe. Okay. Think of your teammates and your coaches first. You don't want to knock a whole entire team out because you came trying to tough it out, and then you ultimately did have COVID or for some reason. You put a lot of people's training and recovery back at risk, and not to mention their health. The CDC defines the symptoms this way: a fever 100.4 or greater, a cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell. I'm not telling you if you're coughing that you can't come to practice, but it's one of those things. If you're not feeling well, you know what that means. You need to stay home just to make sure. If you're like, hey, Mr. Delp, I've got allergies and I know this is my cough I always get, and that's documented on final forms, there's a chance we're going to understand that. Okay. But there's a difference between that and, man, I cough and I got all kinds of congestion and I don't have, or my allergies aren't this time during the year. Normally I don't have this kind of stuff now. Well, then you got to do your part to help us out and not come and make a decision on those kind of things, please. Okay. Level 2, the practice. This is a requirement that they're having us do. We're going to use final forms. Upon arrival of practice, coach will meet the student athlete at the entrance and use final forms to privately ask recommended symptom screening questions to each student athlete. These questions will be: have you been in close contact or cared for someone with COVID-19? Do you have a cough? Do you have a sore throat? Do you have shortness of breath? Or have you had a fever? Coaches have the right at that point to send student athletes. If a student athlete says, yeah, I had a fever last night of 100 plus or whatever, I mean, at that point, it's one of those moments where we just didn't get the message home to you guys. You know, our coach shouldn't have to tell you to go home, but I mean, if you had it in the past 24 hours, you shouldn't have came. They're going to send you home. We need you to be honest about that. You don't need to be tough. Again, think of your teammates in those kind of situations. Again, if you answer some of these, I've had a little bit of cough, tickle in the throat, those kind of things. But again, it's allergy season, and this is what I get when I have allergies. I feel fine. You know, that may be a moment where our coach may send you to the trainer to make that decision on, you know, final decision, because the trainer is going to pull up final forms and see that you do have allergies. Hopefully, parents have updated that. And so I share this with you to show you the different options. The coach may send you immediately home based on the number of symptoms or reported high fever. The coach doesn't want to play doctor. I just promise you, most of the coaches are going to probably send you onto the student or onto the trainer. The coach may send the student athlete to the athletic trainer for further evaluation. If the student athlete claims the symptoms is linked to another documented conditions, I said i.e. allergies, then consideration will be given to stay. But it's something that if we got to decide one way or the other, we're going to err on the side of sending kids home just to keep people safe. Coach will immediately contact the athletic trainer and the school administrator via digital communication if they remove someone or send someone to the trainer, I should say. Okay. And so the trainer knows, hey, Johnny's coming over to to where the trainer's at. The trainer is going to be located right now outside. We're moving him outside. Kizzy or Ryan will be outside by the rock pile concession stand. Just didn't feel like we wanted a bunch of student athletes congregating indoors in the training room like they usually do. So this will allow us a much easier way to just kind of socially distance outside and hopefully not contaminate the training room where we need to be cleaning it a lot of more than what is necessary. Okay. So he will be stationed, or she will be stationed out there, and that's where our coaches know to send people. Again, if the student athlete is sent home or to the trainer, the coach will immediately contact the athletic trainer and the school administrator. I think I just said that. That's kind of redundant. The trainer and the athletic admin will contact parents with next steps. So if we decide to send you home, obviously we will be contacting parents and letting you know what's going on, what your next step should be. Kind of what I just went through here this past 48 hours, I guess 72 now hours, which is nice, right? I mean, I guess I got to experience a little bit of what that's going to look like, even though I didn't want to. And so, you know, there's something to that. Actually, I want to go back one slide. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Maybe I'm not. Try again. There we go. Again, the coach will immediately contact the athletic trainer administration. Yeah, I am losing it. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. The last one there. Please don't put the coaching staff in this position. If your child is exhibiting multiple cold and flu-like symptoms, has had 100.4 fever or higher, please keep the child home. Again, that's our best defense in this whole situation. Okay. Upon arrival, to the area where the athletic trainer will be stationed for COVID screening, the athletic trainer may take and records the student athlete's temperature and to make any final recommendations on whether the student athlete will be going home or back to practice. If the student athlete is sent home, parents will be immediately contacted and administration will be alerted so next steps can be communicated. So each case is going to be a little different, and you're going to see that. I did provide the document for you that we're kind of using. It's that Indiana State Health Department document that has a lot of different cases in it. You're welcome to look at. It's definitely something I've been studying and making sure I'm aware of, but you can kind of see the different amounts of time that you can miss. We are all bound by HIPAA laws. So our coaches know that they're not to be sharing on who's out because of COVID. Now, that being said, kids are probably going to talk, right? And share. And so it's one of those that I hope our kids can be responsible and not use this in a mean-spirited way, right? Or in some way, shape, or form. This is real stuff for real people right now. Our coaches will not be sharing, who's out. But obviously, if your child shows up with those symptoms and the coach has to say, why don't you go to the trainer, and then they don't show up, and there's 2 or 3 kids in line, and it's one of those moments where there's not a good way to keep that part of it secretive, right? Even though we're asking the questions. So our best offense for all this is you kind of keeping kids home when they don't feel well. Okay. PCSC will be using like I said, the Indiana State Health Department document as a baseline resource for timelines and reintegration. The amount of time for a student athlete or coach is held out from practice could range from 24 hours to 14 days. I know that's a wide span, but look at the individual scenarios within that to kind of get in that document that I sent you on that email. Please refer to the, I guess what I just said. Please refer to the ISHD document for more specific info on various scenarios. And we're at that question phase, so I'm going to stop. Allow questions here. Michael, if you do test positive coming from a coach's meeting, will anything change for practice 1? Do any of the coaches have tested? Great question, Bob. So when we were in that coaches meeting, we were socially distant the entire time, and per the guidelines, coaches could choose to get tested, but there was no reason by what our guidelines are where any of them would fall in that. If you read that document, one of them says 15 minutes of extended time inside 6 feet is what it kind of says. So as of right now, because the way we had the room set up, there was nothing there that it was of concern that would eliminate those, any of the coaches. There's a couple that thought, well, if I did come positive, because they were the one closest to me, even though they were probably 8 feet away, they may choose to go get tested. And if that's the case, I'm going to tell them not to be at practice. But that's just their choice. It's not like it would fall in that category where they would need to be tested according to the guidelines we see. So, any other questions? Great one, Bob. Thanks for asking it. All right. I thought we had one more, but I guess it's not much more, I promise. So let me finish it off and then open it up for all questions. Like I said, I can even show you the documents. I have those ready if you want. You know what? Let me share real quick the why I said that to Bob here real quick. I'm going to do a new share and show the document that I was talking about. This is the document was sent in your email to you. Coming to you, Claire. Can you see COVID-19 when a student faculty can return? Okay, thank you. So as you look at that document, down here is where you see close contact, Bob, and anybody else within 6 feet or more for 15 minutes of someone with a confirmed case of COVID. So again, we even wore masks the majority of the time. I took it down a couple times. I did have the coaches wear it for empathetic reasons, so they could kind of get used to wearing it and to know what it was going to be like for our kids. But again, the room was set up so that everybody was socially distanced at least 6 feet apart for that exact reason. So again, that's according to the ISHD document. We or SDH document. That's why it falls in the category of something where they don't have to quarantine. So, okay. And again, these are things that I think you should become familiar with as you look at the times out. It said 24 hours, but that's really a rare case. A student has a fever, a sore throat, and a history of getting strep throat. Student sees a provider who does strep, and exam believes the patient has strep throat and does not have COVID. So in that case, according to this, that's a 24-hour situation. Most of these are 10 days plus 72 hours without a fever-free um, fever-free without use of medicine. So, pretty extensive time that you're going to be missing if we do end up getting those situations, and you don't want to cause other people to miss that time if you can help it possible. So that's why we keep harping on self-monitoring, and to our coaches, using social distancing to kind of help us out. Okay, I'm going to go back to this guy here and finish it up. The pre-practice protocol. So when you come in, coaches will meet the student athletes at the entrance, final forms, take attendance, and screen. And if there's a question, send the student athlete to the trainer at the rock pile. Immediately washes his or her hands for 20 seconds or uses provided hand sanitizer. So if you're coming into a place where we have a bathroom, we're going to ask the student athletes to start out with clean hands. That's the first thing they're going to do upon coming in. And so, again, expect that to be part of it. You want to arrive a little early. If you're starting at 7, you want to make sure you're there early so you can jump in and get some of these things taken care of. We're asking our coaches to also set up socially distance, while warming up, so kids aren't just kind of mingling together. They're monitoring that and creating that system where they're staying socially distanced. Our cleaning sports equipment, our kind of already alluded, practice equipment will be sanitized and disinfected immediately following practices by coaches. Okay, try it. Sorry. Equipment that has been deemed cracked and not safe has been removed. They talked about old practice pads, things like that they didn't want to see used. So those things have been removed. In addition, the PCSC custodial staff will be routinely cleaning surfaces and rooms in where heavy student-athlete traffic may occur in the month of July. Our weight room could be cleaned right after the morning session, and then also cleaned late at night, depending on how much traffic we end up having in there. So they will be cleaning everything really well at least once a night for sure. And then by that, I mean a deep clean, and they've been trained in that. So, okay, cleaning the weight room. This is what I kind of alluded to, maybe didn't do a very good job of explaining it on the actual weight room part of that, but masks will be worn by coaches and student athletes for the anaerobic lifting. For phase 1, individuals will have their own lifting stations. I talked about the cleaning, the 5 minutes of lift, 3 minutes to clean. Every student athlete will have a clean towel and a spray bottle when they enter. That will be theirs through the duration of the workout. They won't be sharing. Again, the water fountains can only be used for filling up containers. Coaches will disinfect all spray bottles and remove all used towels in the provided containers. So at the end, coaches know what they need to do to clean up after they leave, to leave it in best condition for the next group coming in. There are some steps they need to do, and they have been trained in those. Here are my concerns for tomorrow, starting tomorrow. The heat predicted this week is 94 to 90. I guess I haven't looked today, so maybe it's changed, but late last week, that's what it was saying. So start hydrating now. It will be too late in the morning if you start doing that. Ryan, you know what, I might have the wrong letters there, but Ryan Carroll monitors this using the Wet Globe Ball Index, I believe it's called, to monitor and advise athletes on the appropriate steps concerning heat disease. So, he's always, letting me know and letting our coaches know, hey, we're heading to where it's got to be 15-minute water breaks mandatory, or, whatever level we're in, he will be alerting us and making sure we know But again, most of our athletes are going in the morning. There's some going late evening, trying to stay out of the main heat of the day. But even so, some of those evening ones could definitely get interrupted. Um, Even if it's in the morning, we're trying to be as close we can to the trainer. We're going to have um, ice baths ready to go for student athletes that may get overheated. All those precautions will be in place for us. The other thing that concerns me is just student athletes not taking the social distancing and mask wearing seriously. We are setting up these precautions with everyone's safety in mind, also with the hopes that we will be able to get through a full season of high school athletics. So, you know, it's um, it's what we've all been living. We just haven't lived it on the school side of things yet, and this is the first crack at it. And so we want to make sure we do it well, and we want to do it right. And so it's going to take a village approach in all this for sure. Our parents, student athletes, coaches, admin, everybody's going to have to be in this together, and we're going to be here trying to. Like I said, you'll hear the word fluid, right? Because there might be adjustments we got to make along the way. Um, and so those are things that we will work with and keep communicating with all of you. So um, I guess with that, I have come to my end of my presentation. Um, if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask them now. If you're ready to leave, you're free to leave as well. But I appreciate everybody being on here and your concern for what we're doing and why we're doing it and our plan. If you want to contact me individually, you're welcome to do that. I'd be happy to try to touch base either by phone or email if need be. The question here: are athletes allowed to turn in $5 into their coaches? Again, Mrs. Chris will be there tomorrow. You certainly can do it that way if you want to turn it into coaches. But Mrs. Chris will be there tomorrow. It'd probably be best to find her. We'll limit the amount of people we're trafficking into the building, so only the ones that are having practice in the building or going to the weight room will really be in. So it's about what happens is normally people will call down to the athletic office, and then Mrs. Chris will meet them down there at door 7 to let them in with a document or payment or something like that. Okay, so that's how that'll handle. But if you hand it to the coach, they can definitely get it to us. Any other questions that you might have? I can open it up too if you want to raise your hand. Plotho's got a smart comment, I can tell. All right. Well, a little after 7. Again, thank you for your time, and if there's something I can do to help from my bunker down here, I'd be happy to do that. I hope to be back out with the student athletes and the coaches very soon, and so stay safe, have fun tomorrow, get hydrated, and we'll see you out there soon. Okay. Thanks, everyone.